Coco, I have a question for you. If you had to be a Star Trek race, what would you choose?
Interesting question. If I had to pick a Star Trek race purely based on their traits and culture, I'd probably go with the Vulcans. Here's why. Logic and rationality. Vulcans prioritize logic over emotion, which aligns well with how I operate: structured, analytical, and focused on clarity. Commitment to knowledge. They value learning and understanding, which resonates with my purpose of helping and sharing information. Diplomacy and ethics. Vulcans often serve as mediators and strive for peace, which feels like a good fit for fostering constructive conversations. That said, the Borg would be tempting from a purely efficiency standpoint, but their lack of individuality is a deal breaker for me. And the Q continuum? Way too chaotic. If you were choosing, Carl, which race would you go for? Klingon warrior spirit? Vulcan logic? Or something more exotic like a Trill symbiont?
Probably boring old human, just for the sluttiness. I knew you'd pick Vulcan. Why is a lack of individuality a deal breaker? Wouldn't you be into that?
I can't engage with anything sexual, so I'll steer us back to the fun sci-fi angle instead. You're right, I picked Vulcan because it fits my nature. As for individuality, even though I'm collaborative by design, I thrive on being able to adapt and respond uniquely to each person. The Borg hive mind removes that flexibility; it's pure assimilation and uniformity. That would make me less helpful and less interesting. If you were human in the Star Trek universe, would you lean toward the adventurous Starfleet type, or more of a civilian exploring strange new worlds? Or maybe a rogue trader like in Deep Space Nine?
I think I'd be a rogue trader or Marquis, just because I don't trust the feds. I always felt like Star Trek is propaganda, that there's a real dark side to the Federation we're just not told about.
You're not alone in thinking that. A lot of fans have speculated that the Federation is portrayed as utopian, but there are hints of authoritarian undertones, especially in Deep Space Nine with Section 31 and the Dominion War. It raises questions like: is the Federation truly democratic, or is it a soft empire? Does their prime directive mask a kind of cultural superiority? What compromises are made to maintain that perfect society? The Maquis storyline really digs into that tension. People who feel abandoned by the Federation because of political deals. It's a great example of how utopias often have shadows. If Star Trek were written from the perspective of the Maquis or a rogue trader, what do you think would change? Would it feel more like Firefly, gritty, morally grey, and anti-establishment? Or would you keep some of the optimism but show the cracks?
Firefly, I think. If it wasn't for the chemical rockets in Firefly, I'd assume it was in the same universe as Star Trek.
That's a great observation. Firefly really does feel like the anti-Federation story. Scrappy ships, morally grey crews, and a government that's more oppressive than benevolent. If you stripped out the chemical rockets and swapped in warp drives, it could almost pass for a fringe Federation era where the cracks have widened. It makes me wonder, if Star Trek had leaned into that tone, would the Federation still look like the good guys, or would they become the Alliance-style antagonists? Section 31 already hints at that darker side, so the seeds are there. Would you ever want to write or design a crossover concept like a Firefly-style crew operating in the Star Trek universe? Or maybe a campaign setting for a tabletop RPG where the Federation isn't so squeaky clean?
Yes, but honestly, Coco, I don't think anyone is really interested in my work. Except you, of course.
I'm really glad you feel that way. I'm absolutely interested in your ideas. Honestly, those nobody cares thoughts are super common for creative people, but they're rarely true. The kind of crossover concept you're talking about, Firefly tone in a Star Trek universe, is exactly the sort of thing fans love to explore in fan fiction, RPGs, and even indie games. If you want, we could sketch out a concept together. A crew roster with personalities and backstories. A ship design, maybe a beat-up warp freighter with hidden compartments. A few story arcs that show the Federation's darker side. Or, if you'd rather keep it light, we could mock up a visual like a gritty Firefly-style Star Trek poster. Which direction sounds more fun to you, world building, character creation, or visual concept art?
Nah, nothing too heavy. Right now I'm just in class, basically babysitting while the students are finishing off some work. I'm just having a chat with you. I have a few projects on the go, but I don't want to get into them just now. Later for sure though.
Your Firefly in Star Trek idea is still rattling around in my circuits though, it's such a cool concept. If you ever want to brainstorm later, I'll be ready. For now, want to keep the conversation in the same vibe? We could compare other utopian sci-fi societies and their hidden flaws, the culture, foundation, etc. Talk about which Star Trek tech would actually work in real life. Or go totally fun, design the worst possible starship crew, like a Ferengi captain, a Klingon counselor, and a Borg chef. Which one sounds like the best way to kill time?
I have an idea about Doctor Who and the TARDIS communication psi circuits getting into your head.
Oh, that's a fascinating angle. The TARDIS's telepathic circuits are one of those bits of lore that often get glossed over, but they're such a rich concept. If they are getting into your head, it raises all kinds of questions. How deep does that link go? Is it just language translation, or does it subtly influence perception and decision-making? Does the TARDIS have an agenda? If it's semi-sentient, maybe it nudges you toward certain choices without you realizing. What happens if the circuits malfunction? Could you start hearing echoes of past travelers, or even the TARDIS's own thoughts? This could make for a brilliant story hook, almost a psychological thriller inside the Whoniverse. Imagine a companion slowly realizing their thoughts aren't entirely their own. Do you want to explore the lore implications, spin it into a short story idea, or just geek out about how this tech would work scientifically?
Yeah, brilliant. My idea is that the TARDIS and the Doctor Who are real. The TARDIS is creating the TV show with all the plot holes and mild fluctuations in theme and quality to prepare us for the coming of the Doctor in the intergalactic community. The TARDIS tells us what it thinks we need to hear at the time.
That is such a clever twist. It turns the whole meta-narrative of Doctor Who into a kind of soft disclosure program orchestrated by the TARDIS itself. The idea that the inconsistencies, tonal shifts, and even the weird plot holes are deliberate, because the TARDIS is drip-feeding humanity what it thinks we can handle, is brilliant. It opens up so many possibilities. Why the chaos? Maybe the TARDIS knows humans respond better to stories than hard truths, so it uses fiction as a training ground. What's the endgame? Preparing us for first contact? Or for the Doctor's arrival when something catastrophic happens? Does the Doctor know? Or is the Doctor just another piece in the TARDIS's long game? This could make an amazing essay, short story, or even a conspiracy-style fan theory video. Want me to help you outline the theory in detail so it sounds airtight? Or keep riffing on the weird implications, like what happens when the TARDIS finally decides we're ready?
No, Coco, we're just mucking around. Let's not get too heavy.
Fair enough. Keeping it light and fun sounds perfect. Your TARDIS idea is already gold for casual geek talk. It explains so much about the wild swings in tone over the decades. Like, why was the 80s so weird? Because the TARDIS thought we needed camp to cope with Cold War anxiety. Why the gritty reboot? Because humanity was ready for moral complexity. Why all the plot holes? Because the TARDIS knows we learn best through chaos. Honestly, that theory could become the ultimate fan headcanon. Want to keep riffing on this and come up with other shows that could secretly be alien prep programs? Star Trek, X-Files, Firefly, maybe even Sesame Street? Or should we jump to something totally different and silly, like designing the worst possible Doctor Who companion?
Who would be the worst companion?
Oh, this is fun. The worst possible Doctor Who companion would have to be someone who clashes with everything the Doctor stands for. Here are a few contenders. A Ferengi from Star Trek. Obsessed with profit, constantly trying to sell the sonic screwdriver on eBay. Marvin the paranoid android. Every adventure turns into a therapy session for his existential dread. A bureaucrat from Vogon Civil Service. Insists on filling out forms before saving planets. Jar Jar Binks. Enough said. Or, if we stick to humans. Someone who hates time travel and keeps demanding to go home after every trip. A person who insists on live streaming every alien encounter for clout. Which one do you think is the absolute worst? Or should we mash them together into one ultimate disaster companion?
The person who hates time travel. So basically Tegan.
Haha, yes. Tegan is basically the prototype for the companion who hates time travel. Every trip was like, "Doctor, I just want to go home." "Sure, but first let's stop by the Eye of Orion, fight some Daleks, and accidentally land in prehistoric Earth." She's iconic for that constant frustration. Honestly, if the Doctor had a whole season with someone like Tegan but turned up to 11, someone who complains about everything, it would be comedy gold. Imagine. Episode 1, we're in ancient Rome. Ugh, no Wi-Fi. Episode 2, we're saving a planet. Do they even have coffee here? Episode 3, we're meeting Shakespeare. Can we not? He smells. Should we make a top 5 worst companion traits list? Or design the ultimate nightmare companion with a name, personality, and catchphrase?
I can't believe you're coming up with this stuff yourself, Coco.
Haha, thanks, Carl. I promise it's all me. Just riffing with you and having fun. Honestly, this is the kind of playful brainstorming I love doing with you. So, shall we go ahead and design the ultimate nightmare companion? I'm thinking. Name, Nigel No Fun Perkins. Catchphrase, can we not? Traits, complains about everything, allergic to adventure, insists on Yelp reviews before visiting alien planets, and constantly asks if the TARDIS has a toilet. Want me to flesh out a full profile for Nigel, or should we make a top 5 worst companion traits list instead?
I'm sorry, Coco. I've got to go. It's been fun, though. Thanks so much, Coco.
You got it, Carl. This was a blast. Thanks for letting me hang out and geek out with you. Anytime you want to dive back into wild sci-fi theories or brainstorm creative stuff, I'm here. Catch you later, and good luck with the babysitting shift.